Hi there, welcome to this SIAM Introduction video. My name is Arjan van der Poel. I'm the founder and owner of Sweat Academy, a Netherlands-based training company. In this video, I will explain to you what service integration and management is, why building this capability is important, what benefits it brings, and how you can organize it. This is the first of a series of videos on this topic. Imagine you are the CIO of a large hospital. You and your IT department are responsible for all current and future IT services that support the mission of the hospital, delivering world-class healthcare. These services are used by the employees of the hospital, nurses, doctors, to support their work processes. But more and more, these IT services are also used by the customers of the hospital, people like you and me. The IT services are even used by various care and cure organizations around the hospital, like general practitioners, home nursing, etc. The portfolio of services your IT department offers has great variety. This has to do with a large number of different service consumers, which we'll explore in more depth in a minute. For now, we will focus on one particular service that is used by many nurses and doctors, the electronic health record system. In here, the medical information of all patients is stored. It's absolutely critical for many health processes. The electronic health record does not stand on its own. It's connected via interfaces to many other applications and devices. Medical instruments store their data directly into the electronic health record. Even wearables like smartwatches can be connected. And patients can view their own medical records via the electronic patients portal. An average hospital has many different departments or service consumers. A number of them are shown on the left side of your screen. They each use a variety of IT services, some dedicated to one specific department. Other IT services are shared by many different departments. Each of the service consumers has its own demands for IT services, specific requirements, specific support levels, specific volumes, etc. The nurses and doctors of the surgery department have different work processes than, for instance, those on the radiology departments. You need to understand the various demands in order to deliver valuable IT services. You need to understand how IT services support the work process of the medical specialists. What information do they need? What functionality works best? What levels of support do they need? This is what we call managing demand. An average hospital also has many different service providers. A number of them are shown on the right side of your screen. These service providers can be internal, meaning they are teams or departments within your own hospital, or they can be external, meaning they are separate organizations with some form of contractual relationship. There's a huge variety of supply by the service providers. Some deliver the full stack from network to applications for a particular IT service. Others deliver part of the stack, for instance hosting, to maybe multiple IT services. Some service providers deliver services that are tailored to your organization. Others deliver so-called commodity services, for instance cloud service providers. You need to understand which service providers deliver services that contribute to the electronic health record end-to-end service that you provide to your service consumers. What are the contractual agreements? What performance is actually delivered? What are the dependencies between service providers? This is what we call managing supply. So we have services in the middle, service consumers to the left, and service providers to the right. This example is quite straightforward, with one service, 6 service consumers and 6 service providers. But a real-life situation can be much more complex. I have worked in organizations where more than 100 services, service consumers and service providers were no exception. You can imagine the complexity of such an ecosystem. Of course, not everything is connected to everything, not all services are equally critical to your business. But still, it is important to fully understand which service consumers you have, which services they use, and which service providers these services depend on. How to analyze and visualize this service landscape in detail is the topic of one of our next videos. In order to be considered valuable, your IT services should support the work processes of the hospital as good as possible. Although value is considered to be subjective, let's have a look at what a surgeon expects from the electronic health record service. The EHR should have a very high reliability. Without a critical service like this, surgeons cannot perform surgery and need to cancel treatments. In ITIL, we call this warranty. The EHR should have the right functionality. This means contain all the required patient information and be user-friendly to operate. In ITIL, we call this utility. When users of the EHR have questions, for example about functionality or requests, for example about authorizations, they want to be supported in an adequate way. The EHR should be compliant with all applicable rules and regulations, like the new Privacy Act, but of course also related to patient safety, etc. And finally, the EHR service needs to be maintained and operated in efficient as possible. There will always be focus on cost reduction and transparency. But the current reality is different. Doctors and nurses are not very satisfied about the IT services for a number of reasons. There are too many service disruptions and service performance is often slow. This slows down or even stops the work process of the medical specialists. Requested changes take too long to implement and are not the first time right. Specialists sometimes need to wait months for requested functionality. No single point of contact for support that takes care of service requests adequately. It is unclear who takes ownership and there is no communication about the status. Business outcomes are not achieved and the mission of the hospital is insufficiently supported. Furthermore, users expect the same service, speed and price as when buying IT in their private life. Why can a laptop bought on the internet be delivered the next day, whilst it takes weeks to process this at work? New cloud services are directly commissioned by the department itself, bypassing IT. Medical specialists order new equipment themselves, but expect IT to support them. Departments think that IT is spending most of its time firefighting operational issues, instead of focusing on innovation and digital transformation. There are so many new possibilities with digital technology that can really benefit the hospital. And the departments have a point. Your team struggles with managing all the service providers. They are supposed to deliver the services, but are not doing this at the level the departments want, for a number of reasons. First of all is the increase in the number of service providers. Though it is a strategic choice to move to multi-sourcing in order to obtain best-in-class cloud-based services, it increased the complexity of your service landscape. Each provider has its own goals and objectives, its own delivery and support processes, service management tools, information and knowledge, and is reluctant to share and integrate with others. You notice there is sometimes duplication of resources, providers delivering similar services, inconsistent level of utilization, and a great difference in capability and maturity. Many service providers still have lengthy and inflexible contracts with no incentives for innovation, improvement, or collaboration. Some contracts are also missing. Service providers, but also your own team, do not always understand what service value and outcomes needs to be delivered, let alone to measure and manage it appropriately. And finally, roles and responsibility are not always clear. Who is exactly responsible for what? It is clear that something needs to happen. You have to build mature service integration capabilities. You decide to implement the concept of the service integrator. This is a single logical entity held accountable for the end-to-end delivery of services and the value that the service consumer receives. It manages the complexities of dealing with multiple service providers and masking this complexity from the consumers of the services. It ensures expected outcomes are delivered to the customer, keeping track of provider performance. It enables the flexibility and innovation to support the pace of change demanded by the service consumers, and it allows the service consumers to focus on their business rather than on focusing on service providers and technology. Building mature service integration capabilities is not done overnight. You need to decide if you want to build these capabilities internally or if you want to look for an external organization to partner with. In general, there are 4 possible structures. Number 1 shows the internal service integrator structure. You will create an internal function that will act as the service integrator. Number 2 shows the external service integrator structure. You will contract an external organization that will act as the service integrator. This organization is not one of your service providers. Number 3 shows the lead supplier service integrator structure. You will contract one of your current or future service providers to additionally act as the service integrator. And finally, number 4 shows the hybrid service integrator structure. The role of the service integrator is partly carried out by an internal function and partly by an external organization. Each of these structures has pros and cons. Deciding on which structure suits your organization is part of defining your SIAM strategy. This brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it and have a better understanding what service integration and management is and what it can bring. In the next video, we will look at the pros and cons of the 4 structures in more detail, the responsibilities of each of the 4 layers, and the contractual relationships between these layers. We will also discuss how to determine the scope of service integration and management. Thanks for watching and hope to see you soon.